Unsung Murder Ballads discusses topics of a disturbing nature.
And we're not going to hold back on the graphic details and disturbing content.
So we do not recommend our podcast for children under the age of 13.
And while we respect the victims and their families involved in these tragic cases,
we're also going to be critical of mistakes that are made during the investigations.
And we're going to use dark humor to express ourselves now and then.
So with that said, this podcast may not be for everyone.
And that's okay. We're glad you're here checking us out.
And if you've made it this far, welcome to the Unsung Murder Ballads family. And follow us on Instagram at Unsung Murder Ballads if you want to talk to us.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Unsung Murder Ballads. This is episode 133. I am Janice Dead.
I'm Jameson Dead.
And I'm Joyous Dead.
All right, so tonight we have one that requires a trigger warning, so we're going to hit you with that right away. And that basically is the sexual assault of minors. Not children, but minors. So if you can't handle that, we understand. Come back next week. With that said, this is going to be, it's everybody a bumpy ride. So, hopefully you guys have your seatbelts on.
I'm
well,
strapped.
As on as they ever are.
I know, these are tough cases, but unfortunately, so many of them involve this kind of assault. I don't understand.
It really, fucked up people are fucked up.
Yes, they are. And I just listened myself to a podcast where I was so angry that the criminal justice system didn't keep a particular person behind bars. We will eventually cover this one as well, but man, was I pissed. So
hate to see it.
Agreed. And I gotta say, I just listened to someone else's, it's a newer release than when we did it. But do you remember the bonus episode we did on Mackenzie Sharilla? This is the girl who was driving her car with her boyfriend and a friend of theirs, and she crashed them into a wall at 100 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a case that, again, it came out more recently, and I was listening to it, and the narrator clearly had more information than I did when I put together that episode, because I had done it within weeks of her conviction. And I don't think a lot of the evidence was made public yet, or at least I didn't watch the entire trial to get all the evidence. And based on what he was saying, I'm actually changing my thought process on whether or not I think Mackenzie did it on purpose or not.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah, he had, so apparently the boyfriend at one point, Dominic, her boyfriend, he had locked her out of the house, and he had recorded her pounding on the door and what she was saying to him, like how she was going to kill herself or hurt him or call the police for him not letting her in, and just her behavior. And then apparently there was evidence that she had driven around and kind of scoped out that spot where she crashed days before she had done it. So,
holy crap.
Yeah, so I'm not so sure that I think she's as innocent as I did in that episode. Yeah, I can admit when I'm wrong.
Right, of course. And always when presented with new information, we reevaluate our opinions.
At least we should, correct.
We should, that's right. We do our best.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone on the planet does, unfortunately. So they just ignore the stuff that doesn't fit their narrative.
Right, which is human nature, understandably. We all have bias, but we can try to be better, and that's all we can do.
All right, let's dive in. We ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, so the teaser is really diving into the first event, so there's not much of a teaser. So Michelle Knight was born on April 23rd, 1981, and had known an unimaginable hard life. Michelle loved growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, but hated her life at home. Her family didn't even have a couch to sit on, and they didn't even have a stove.
Oh,
what?
That sounds not up to code.
Yeah, it's rough.
That sucks.
You live in a trailer? Like, what's going on?
It's a home, but they didn't have basic amenities.
That's rough.
She said that to make hot meals for herself and her siblings, Michelle had to cook using a space heater, and it sometimes took hours to heat even a hot dog.
Ew.
She gets points for ingenuity, that's for sure.
Right? She was essentially a mother to her siblings, and she would say that her life was, you name it, I went through it.
Ugh.
That's awful.
Yeah.
She struggled to overcome the trauma of being sexually abused by a male relative, and eventually reached a point where she felt she was safer living on the streets than she was living in her own home, and she ran away.
That's fucking awful.
She was only 14 at the time that she ran away. She didn't know where her next meal was going to come from or what was going to happen next. At one point, she took a blanket from someone's back porch and lived in a garbage can, cuddled with that blanket.
Oh, God.
Oh my God. That is like horrifically sad.
She often sought refuge at a local Baptist church where she was given food, clothing, and a place to bathe. She started.
Well, that's a guiding light.
Well, she first started going there because as she was going by, she heard the music and she wanted to go in and listen to it. But she was a little embarrassed because she knew that she didn't exactly smell too good.
Poor thing.
At that point, one of the congregation members saw her one day and recognized her, and she reported it back to her father. So, of course, she was collected up, brought home, and she was sent back to school again, where she was bullied.
Oh, of course she was. Poor thing.
So at 18, she started seeing a boy from her school. And unfortunately for her, I guess being so young, I'll say it that way, she became pregnant and would soon give birth to her son, Joey. Now, she wanted to be the best mom she could be, better than her own had been. But it was difficult because obviously she's not coming from a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the spring of 2002, her mother's boyfriend got drunk and somehow, it's unclear how, somehow fractured her son Joey's knee.
Holy hell.
Oh, no.
Social services became involved and they put Joey in the foster care system.
Ugh.
Now, Michelle was desperate to get her son back. And on August 23rd, 2002, she was on her way to a case management meeting to discuss what she could do when she lost her way and started stopping and asking for directions. She was desperately trying to reach this caseworker and tried calling them from a payphone, if you remember those, but of course that phone didn't work. She was in despair and felt that there was no way she was going to make this meeting and could potentially jeopardize her getting custody of her son again. Then a man offered to help her. She recognized him as the father of one of her friends. And he said to her, "I know where that's at. I can take you straight to it. It'll only take me 5 minutes." Michelle was relieved and ecstatic. She said to herself, "Okay, I'm going to make it. This is going to happen." Instead, however, instead of going to the family court, this man took her to his home on the pretense of first picking up his daughter, her friend, and he was going to show her some puppies. Although I don't know why an 18-year-old that's trying to get her son back would give a fuck about puppies, but he threw that in there. Only his daughter didn't live with him, and there were no puppies.
Oh, no.
So this is the case of Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus, as well as the monster named Ariel Castro. Now, authorities believe that Michelle had run away voluntarily due to anger over losing custody of her son. Police later acknowledged that limited resources had been spent on investigating her disappearance, in part because she was an adult.
Right, even though not very old.
Exactly. When you're 18, there's not a whole lot you can do. Like, they're not a child anymore, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So according to Cleveland police, she was the focus of very few tips, quote unquote. It basically means no one's calling up with any information on where she may or may not be.
Mm-hmm.
So Michelle's name was actually removed from the National Crime Information Center database 15 months after she disappeared, which meant no...
Why would they remove it? What the fuck? We don't
That's
care if adults
awful,
go
though.
missing?
Apparently not.
That's whack.
And that basically meant no one was looking for her.
Right, and it's not even like if someone started looking for her, there wouldn't even be record. That's crazy.
So Amanda Marie Berry was born on April 22nd, 1986. She was last heard from around 8 p.m. when she called her sister to tell her that she was getting a ride home from her job at Burger King. Amanda disappeared on April 21st, 2003, the day before her 17th birthday. That day, she had almost called off of work because it was her birthday the next day.
Oh.
While walking home from work, a vehicle started to follow Amanda down the street, and the man inside asked if she needed a ride home. The man was the father of one of Amanda's friends and classmates from middle school.
It sucks. It's like, of course you trust that person.
Like, exactly. And I don't know how far a walk it was, maybe a mile or two, and she probably could have done it. But again, if that's like, I've been friends with your parents your whole life. If I offered you a ride, you're not really going to hesitate. Luckily,
No, not at all.
Yeah, luckily you know me better than that, but
Right.
So the FBI initially considered Amanda a runaway as well.
Of course.
Until a week after her disappearance, when an unidentified male used her cell phone to call her mother, Luana Miller.
What an idiot.
He said, quote, "I have Amanda. She's fine and will be coming home in a couple of days," unquote.
What the hell?
That's the moment you call police.
Absolutely. If they hadn't already.
Right. Well, unfortunately, Amanda did not return home in a few days.
Of course not.
Georgina Lynn DeJesus, also known as Gina, was born on February 13th, 1990. On April 2nd, 2004, at the age of 14, she was last seen at a payphone around 3 p.m. on her way home from middle school.
Ugh, fucking middle schooler. Gross. I hate that they're getting younger.
Yeah, it's fucking awful. At this time, she was friends with the same children of the guy who's abducted the first two.
How many
Wow.
kids? That's what the fuck.
Shortly before Gina disappeared, she and this man's daughter, who's named Arlene, she and Arlene had called Arlene's mother for permission to have a sleepover at Gina's house. But Arlene's mother replied that her daughter couldn't go, and the two girls parted ways. Arlene was the last person to see Gina before her disappearance.
Oh,
Her father,
literally, what the fuck?
right? Her father, Ariel Castro, offered Gina a ride home. He was driving down the street and saw her and offered her a ride. She trusted Castro because obviously she's friends with his teenage daughter. Why wouldn't she take this offer?
Right.
No one witnessed her abduction, and for whatever fucking reason, an Amber Alert was never issued.
Oh, come on.
Now, to spend a little bit of time telling you about this asshole that caused all of this, we're going to do that now. I'm loath to give him any real attention, but he's obviously a key player in this, so I got to give you a little background on Ariel Castro.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get this over with.
Castro was born on July 10th, 1960 in Dewey, Yacu, Puerto Rico, to Pedro Castro and Lillian Rodriguez. His parents divorced when he was a kid, and he moved to the U.S. with his mother and 3 siblings. They first lived in Reading, Pennsylvania, before settling in Cleveland, Ohio, where Castro's father and other relatives were living. He had 9 siblings, and Castro was allegedly a devout Catholic.
9 siblings is crazy, but that is Catholic of them to have so many children.
No, I thought you were about to say to abduct children. I was like, whoa.
Oh my God, no.
I was like, whoa, what the fuck?
That would be bold of me to say.
So Castro was sexually and physically abused throughout his childhood. He was molested starting at the age of 5 by a male neighbor in Puerto Rico and was also raped by an uncle.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
generational trauma. Yeah.
Hate to see it.
His mother had physically abused him by striking him with belts, sticks, and her open hand daily, as well as verbally abusing him and yelling negative things and cursing at him. He was suspended in junior high school for touching a girl's breasts. Now, as an adult, Castro met his girlfriend, Grimilda Figueroa, who's the mother of his children, when that family had moved in across the street from his house in the 80s. Now, Castro and Figueroa lived with both sets of their parents until they moved in on their own at the address of 2207 Seymour Avenue, located in Cleveland's Tremont neighborhood in 1992. Their home was a 2-story, 1,400 square foot, 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. with a
Oh, that's
fuck.
bizarre.
right, with a 760 square foot unfinished basement built in 1890 and remodeled in 1956. There's a reason I'm telling you all that, but we'll get to that as we go.
So is it a finished basement, you're saying?
It's an unfinished basement.
Oh, okay, but the whole house was remodeled.
The house was remodeled in 56, but the basement was left mostly unfinished.
Gotcha.
Well, that's a perfect place to bring a victim.
Well, just wait. According to Figueroa's sister, all hell started breaking loose after the couple moved into their new home. Now, his sister claimed that Castro beat Figueroa, breaking her nose, her ribs, her arms, and causing a blood clot on her brain that resulted in an inoperable tumor.
Oh my
Holy
God.
shit.
Fucking crazy. He also threw her down a flight of stairs, cracking her skull.
Holy
Oh.
fuck.
Why? I'm sorry. Again, I understand it's hard to get out of abusive relationships, but please, for the love of God, if you're in one, call somebody, anybody. Fuck, call us. We'll do it.
Yeah,
Fuck.
we'll take care of him.
Vigilante justice. In 1993, Castro was arrested for domestic violence, but was not indicted by a grand jury.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. In 90,
They never do. That's the problem with domestic violence, especially the laws in a lot of places. They make you like you have to be a reoffender. It's like fucking it's upsetting, and it's exactly the reason why people don't call, because the person's not going to get locked away and then they're going to try to kill you
right, it's only going to
because you
escalate.
tried to report them.
Correct. Yep. So in 1996, Grimilda moved out of the house and secured custody of their 4 children. Now, police assisted in the move and detained Castro, but they did not press charges. Castro continued to threaten and attack her after she had left him.
Mm-hmm.
So, in 2005, she filed charges in the Cuyahoga County Domestic Relations Court, which accused Castro of inflicting multiple severe injuries on her and of frequently abducting their daughters.
That's fucked.
The court granted her a temporary restraining order against Castro, but dismissed it a few months later.
Are you kidding me?
So fucked up. Like, what the fuck, Ohio?
God, it should be easier to get a restraining order. I'm just gonna say that.
Well, not just that, but like, what does a restraining order really do? It's just a piece of paper.
It just
I was
gets
just
someone
about to say it
arrested.
too.
Right, that's what I mean, but it's not actually stopping me from doing anything if you have it against
It's a
me.
minor
Right.
inconvenience, and then once they're out, they just go right back to doing what they're doing. And normally, none of it's gonna matter until they're dead.
Right, and that's the frustrating part. I honestly, we've said it 100 times, repeat offenders need to be kept locked up. It's just that simple.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
So, Grimilda died in 2012 due to complications from her brain tumor.
Oh,
Now, before,
so he did kill her.
He did kill her indirectly, yeah. So before his arrest at age 52, Castro worked as a bus driver for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District until he was fired in November of 2012 for bad judgment, including making an illegal U-turn with infants and toddlers on his bus,
Ah,
using his bus to go grocery shopping, leaving a child on the bus while he stopped for lunch at Wendy's,
what the fuck?
and leaving the bus unattended while he took a nap at home. How is it took all 4 of those things?
Insane. And also, like, how does having a DV conviction not preclude you from
Right.
that job?
You got me. Again, it's Ohio. I don't know. Fucking
Yeah. Again, it's just like no one takes domestic violence seriously
No
in the
right.
court of law.
Now understand, this is 2012, right? I don't know what minimum wage is in Ohio, but he was making $18.91 an hour at the time of his dismissal. That's more than minimum wage is now in Massachusetts. So
Right.
all those years ago, that must have been pretty good money to drive a bus.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a special
That's it.
license to drive a bus. I think that you get paid decently for it.
Here in Massachusetts, yes. I don't know about the rest of the country.
That's true. Maybe they're just letting anybody drive a bus out there. I don't know.
Clearly, this asshole. So towards the end of this disturbing case, Castro's home was in foreclosure after 3 years of unpaid real estate taxes. So you can see when he finally does get caught, he's in a bad place.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're going to go back and talk about the first abduction in this case. So after promising her a ride to the meeting that she needed to get custody back of her, of her son back, he instead kidnapped Michelle Knight. And Castro took him to his home and he led her to the upper floor of his house. Once there, he tied her hands and feet together and pulled her using her hands, feet, and neck.
Yo.
He said to her, quote, "You're not going to leave for a long time," unquote. And then he started to undress himself.
Oh.
Michelle dropped to the floor and begged him to let her go. She pleaded with him, saying that she needed to get her son back. This monster ripped up a photo of Michelle's son that she had on her right in front of her. This was the only...
And you would think he would at least fucking have a second of humanity because he, lost his own custody battle.
Yeah, but he's not. He's a monster.
He's just a monster.
Yeah. This was the only photo she had of Joey, and Castro said to her, "You will never see him again."
Oh.
He then left her in that room for 3 days without food.
Oh my God. And that's getting to be pretty dangerous.
At first, Michelle was kept bound with an extension cord wrapped around her legs, arms, and neck. He shoved a sock in her mouth to muffle her screams. Castro raped her multiple times a day and put on loud music to further mute her cries.
Mm.
She would later say, spoiler alert, Michelle survives. She would later say,
Thank God.
She would later say it was difficult. I had to go blank. Every time he was doing anything to me, I had to put myself in a different place.
Ugh.
Castro then picked up Amanda Berry while she was walking home from work, telling her that his daughter, her friend, was at his house, and she agreed to go with him. After the two entered, in a way, it's a brilliant... If you're going to abduct somebody and you're going to want them in your car willingly, this would be the way to do it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So fucked up. After the two entered the white 2-story house on Seymour Avenue, Castro told Amanda that his daughter might be taking a bath, and he said to her, "We'll just wait," and he started showing her around the house. Castro took Amanda upstairs and showed her something a little strange. A mystery woman was sleeping in a bedroom in front of a television set. This is, of course, Michelle. And Castro just showed her to her, and then walked Amanda into the next bedroom, where he then told her to pull down her pants.
Ugh.
Oh, God.
Amanda became Castro's second prisoner. He later took her to the basement, and he taped her wrists and ankles and put a belt around her ankles over the tape.
Ugh.
He then put a motorcycle helmet over her head and told her to be quiet, and then if she behaved, he would take her home.
Ugh.
Now, I imagine the motorcycle helmet going on backwards so she can't see anything. That's how I'm imagining it. Now,
yeah.
Castro then chained Amanda to a pole, shut off the lights, and left her in the dark with the television on. Now, the interesting thing about this is the TV's on the news. And news of her abduction obviously made headlines. And Amanda was literally watching her mother and sister on that TV in the basement.
Oh, my God.
That's heartbreaking.
On the 4th day of her abduction, on April 24th, 2003, Castro moved Amanda up to an upstairs bedroom and chained her to a radiator. He moved a chain around her stomach and put a big-ass lock on it. This basically, as Amanda tried to sleep, if she tried to roll over, she had to move the entire chain and the lock with her so that she wasn't laying on
Ugh.
top of this fucking thing.
Ugh.
Amanda's room was dark and filthy and about the size of a closet. There was also an old and nasty mattress that was just absolutely disgusting. And there was a bucket for her to relieve herself that smelled horrible.
Oh, that's so awful.
Amanda was missing for a week when her family received a late-night call from Castro, who taunted them using that phone. He called and said, quote, "I have Mandy. She wants to be with me." Now, her family knew that this person must have known her because only her family knew to call her Mandy.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the FBI were unable to narrow down that phone call, but they were able to figure out that it came from within a 30 to 40 block area, but in a city like Cleveland, that doesn't exactly help.
That's a massive area. Yeah.
Right. And equally as unfortunate, Castro never used Amanda's phone again.
Go figure.
So once a day, Castro gave them some food to eat, but Amanda soon learned that everything that was given to her, including her weekly shower, came with a price. He would try to act nice, saying something along the lines of, "Well, maybe you need to go take a shower." However, what he meant was that Amanda had to take a shower with him.
Oh, that's so nasty.
Now, like Michelle before her, Amanda had to numb herself to cope with the sexual abuse. And it should be worth noting that Amanda Berry was allowed to write and keep a journal.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Now, Castro obviously read this journal, but she would use codes to record every rape and abuse he put her through. And later, it's just crazy to me. So she would always write these little numbers on the top of the pages because she felt that maybe one day authorities would get to read this and he could be punished for everything that he was doing.
Oh, smart girl.
Right. I don't think I would have thought to do it, especially in the code like she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Almost a year after Amanda had become his prisoner, Castro went on the prowl again just 5 blocks away from the street where he had kidnapped Amanda. Gina DeJesus was 14 years old and close friends with Castro's daughter, Arlene. Castro was also friends with Gina's father.
Oh my God, that's so fucked.
So fucked. I can't even, we've talked about this in the past. If someone did anything to the people I care about, I'd been like the Boltons. I'd have skinned people alive.
Mm-hmm.
The Boltons from Game of Thrones, for those who don't know.
Yes.
On the day that she was kidnapped, Gina and Arlene were heading home from school, and they went their separate ways. As Gina continued her journey home, a maroon vehicle pulled up on the curb with Arlene's father at the wheel. He asks her, "Have you seen my daughter?" And Gina responds, "Yeah, she's right around that corner." And he asked her to get in and help him find her. Which, of course, she was going to do because she's a good kid, right?
Right.
But instead of searching for Arlene, Castro drove Gina to his house where he asked her to help move a stereo. Bizarre.
Bizarre.
Once inside, Gina became unnerved by his bizarre behavior as he began fixing his eyebrows and trimming his mustache and cutting his nose hairs.
Weird.
What the hell?
He then started to touch her. And she asked him, she said, "What are you doing? You could go to jail." And then Castro switched up his behavior and says, okay, we're gonna go home now, but you can't come through the same door you came in.
Anyone seen the Heretic?
I have not, but I can imagine.
Oh yeah, you should check it out.
I'm gonna have to check that out. So Castro led Gina to the basement where he grabbed her and chained her up. Now, he hadn't made the chain tight enough, so Gina threw it off and then tried to run. But he grabbed her and then he sat on her back. Gina then started kicking at him and managed to actually bruise him.
Oh shit.
However, as one would expect, Castro was able to overpower her. Gina screamed for help, but the radio in the basement and the living room was too loud.
Ugh.
Now, one of the things Castro liked to do was take Gina's hair and put it in his mouth.
Oh,
What the fuck? Weird.
Really fucking weird. Now, the first time Castro would rape Gina was on May 7th, 2004, over a month after she was abducted. So for some reason, probably the two people upstairs, he didn't feel the need to immediately assault this 14-year-old. Castro attended at least 2 vigils for Gina and reportedly
What the fuck?
that's so sick and twisted.
and reportedly participated in a search party and tried to get close to the DeJesus family.
All right, well that's on
Oh,
that kind of behavior.
that's fucking vile.
Castro's son Anthony was a journalism student in 2004, and he interviewed Gina's mother for an article about her disappearance in the newspaper.
Oh my fucking God.
Now, his son obviously doesn't know either, but it's a weird, twisted thing.
It is.
According to Castro's uncle, his family knew the DeJesus family and had lived in the same neighborhood, and Castro falsely claimed that he was not aware that Gina was a member of that family when he abducted her.
That's a load of shit.
Right? So it's 2004 at this point, and Castro has 3 captives in his home. At first, Castro took special care to keep the girls divided and did not permit them to talk. He was always there watching their every move, and it was like he knew everything. The girl...
Did he not fucking work at this point? This is after he doesn't work anymore?
No, he does, but we're going to get into how he kept them under control when he's not there. Mostly it's because they're chained up and music's blaring, but... So the girls were occasionally allowed out of their rooms to do chores, but had to obey stringent rules. Now at first, Gina, the 14-year-old, was Castro's favorite. And as often happens in captive situations, the slightest gesture of favoritism made the other girls jealous.
Right, because, I mean, it's going to be violent.
Right. And Amanda had written in her journal that it was just the simple things. But when you don't have anything, and you're like, well, I don't have that, I want that. Yeah.
Of course. I mean, and especially because they've been there longer, suffering for much longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
That's tough.
It's been at least over a year between Amanda and Gina. So the diaries that were kept by these women spoke of forced sexual conduct and being locked in dark rooms while anticipating the next session of abuse.
Oh.
They were kept chained and held prisoners like prisoners of war, suffering from emotional abuse and Castro threatening to kill them while he treated them like animals. Castro forced them to use plastic toilets that were emptied infrequently, and he fed them only 1 meal a day and allowed them to shower once or twice a week at most.
Ugh.
At one point, Michelle had been given a pet dog while she was in captivity. But after it bit Castro while the dog was attempting to protect her from him,
Wow.
he killed it by snapping its neck.
Oh, God.
Yeah. The black and white television was their only window to the outside world. Amanda watched the Montel Williams show that featured a psychic named Sylvia Brown, and she desperately wished that her mother could appear on that program so Brown, the psychic, could tell her mother that she was alive and well. Insanely, in November of 2004, her mother appeared on that show.
Whoa.
No way.
Yeah. And that's when self-proclaimed psychic Sylvia Brown told Amanda's mother, Luana Miller, that her daughter was dead and in the water somewhere.
Oh.
That is so fucked up.
Yup.
And the daughter's watching.
Yes.
That is so fucked up.
This pronouncement devastated her mother, causing her to take down photos and give away Amanda's computer. However, Luana continued to search for Amanda until her death from heart failure in early March 2006, never knowing what really happened to her daughter.
Oh, that's awful.
So fucked up. Now, Castro impregnated Michelle Knight at least 5 times. And he induced miscarriages each time through beatings, hitting her with dumbbells, punching her, slamming her against walls and starving her.
That is incredible.
Oh, I don't have words.
Yeah,
that's horrific.
he's a monster. There's no other word for it.
Yeah.
A year after Gina's disappearance, the FBI released a composite sketch and description of a male suspect described as a Latino, 25 to 35 years of age, 5'10", 165 to 185 pounds, with green eyes, a goatee, and possibly a pencil-thin beard.
Isn't he older than that?
He's roughly, maybe a little older, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Now, according to court records, Castro was 5'7" and 179 pounds, so he's a little shorter, but right in that ballpark for weight.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda Berry was featured in a 2004 segment of Fox's America's Most Wanted, which actually linked her disappearance with Gina DeJesus's.
Oh, wow.
Amanda and Gina were also profiled on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Now, remember, Michelle Knight, being an adult at the time of her abduction, was not considered a missing person, and nobody linked it to this or was reporting about her being missing.
Ugh.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's sad that it's like just like this cutoff happens one day, you're 18, and now you're no longer considered vulnerable.
What blows my mind is, like, she has a kid that's in the foster system and she's on her way there, and yet somehow no one's like, she would have shown up. Like, I understand they think, oh, she's angry that she lost her kid, but to just think she walked away from her kid is strange too.
It
Right.
is strange.
Why don't you just look into it a little bit? Like,
Right.
You can't just completely dismiss it.
Exactly. Fuck Cleveland. That's what I say. So over the years, Castro sometimes tested the women by leaving the house partially unlocked and the exits unsecured.
Oh, God.
If they attempted to escape, he would beat them.
Ugh.
So this is what keeps them in line. So even if they think
Yeah,
there's
of
a
course,
chance,
because they don't, even if it's like, if it seems like they could escape, they know that it's probably not.
yeah, it's probably a test. Exactly. Amanda realized she might be pregnant on her 20th birthday, and on December 25th, 2006, she went into labor.
Oh my God.
Castro actually let her keep it, despite beating the fuck out of Michelle every time she got pregnant. He let Amanda keep this baby.
Oh.
Castro ordered Michelle to assist in the birth of Amanda's child.
What?
Yeah,
Ugh.
imagine the
Phew.
psychological fucking torture of that.
Right, after having one of your child ripped from you by the state, and then 5 pregnancies beat out of you. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Again, and it goes back to the whole jealousy thing. I wouldn't blame Michelle for hating Amanda in that moment.
Right.
Now, this birth took place in a small inflatable swimming pool in that house.
What?
Castro threatened to kill Michelle if the baby did not survive.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
shit.
Just a random 18-year-old. Great.
Well, she's not 18 at this point.
She's a little older now, but
she's
she's
in her
still,
20s.
I mean-
Yeah, but still, you're right. At one point, the baby actually stopped breathing, but Michelle was able to resuscitate her.
That's crazy that she knew how to do that.
Right? I mean, her life was on the line.
Mm-hmm.
She probably just got lucky.
Right? I mean, like, being in danger doesn't change what knowledge you have, and giving babies CPR is very specific.
However, she did give birth once before, so there may be a class involved there somewhere, I would guess.
Oh, could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So Amanda named her baby Jocelyn, and DNA evidence did later confirm that Castro was the father of this child. Now, for the women in captivity, having a little girl there with them was a welcome distraction. Playing with Jocelyn made them forget everything for a little while. Now,
I'm sure it helped.
Jocelyn saw the chains on her mother, and Castro had instructed everyone to refer to the chains as bracelets. When the little...
As if the child knows what a bracelet is.
Right? Well...
Like what? They're just going to grow up thinking bracelet means chain.
Exactly. But, whatever. He's fucked in the head, right? I mean, there's...
Right.
So when Jocelyn was almost 3 years old...
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we're Like, now imagine that's a minimum of 5 years in captivity. So when Jocelyn was almost 3 years old, Castro actually removed the chains from Amanda, and all of that was because of the little girl.
Wow.
As Jocelyn grew older, Castro allowed her freedoms that Amanda, Gina, and Michelle were not given. Though Jocelyn was locked in with the other 3 women, whenever Castro left the house, Jocelyn was occasionally allowed to go out into the real world, like into the backyard or to the park, or even church services with her father.
By herself?
No, with him.
Oh, with him. Okay. I was like,
So Castro's love for Jocelyn seemed to kind of bring out a different side of him, at least with her. Now, Amanda taught her daughter how to read and write over the years. She was her teacher. She had to be, obviously. And it's not like they had a lot else to do. You know, they're chained into a house.
right.
So obviously, all 3 women were concerned that Castro might eventually start assaulting Jocelyn. I mean,
Oh,
let's be honest. The man has fucking problems.
right, of
Yeah.
course. And it's a perfectly reasonable thing to fear.
In July of 2012, a man named Robert Walford was a prison inmate who had lived in the Tremont area, and he claimed to authorities that he had information about the location of Amanda Berry's body.
Whoa.
Right? He led police to an empty lot in Cleveland's west side where they conducted an obviously fruitless search. This man was later sentenced in January of 2013 to 4.5 years in prison for obstruction of justice, making a false report, and making a false alarm.
Wow. That's
Whoa.
a lot of time for that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So it's now 2013. So some of these women have been in captivity for 10 years, while Gina has been in captivity for 9. 2013, Castro showed one of his adult daughters a picture of Jocelyn and said that she was his girlfriend's daughter from a previous relationship.
What the fuck?
He also told others that Jocelyn was his granddaughter.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Ew.
Now, neighbors did claim later that they had called the police about suspicious activity that they observed at that home, but police claimed that they had received no such calls. Mm-hmm.
Weird. I mean, yeah, I mean, if he's blasting music at all hours so loud that no one can hear them scream.
Right. You'd think that, yeah, like, I would personally be calling the police all the time.
Right, just for a noise complaint.
Exactly. On the morning of May 6, 2013, Amanda was still not chained for that day, implying that Castro was still in the house. Jocelyn went downstairs and then ran back up and said, "I don't find Daddy. Daddy's nowhere around." Amanda's heart started pounding. Should she take the chance? If she was going to do it, she knew she needed to do it right then and there. For the first time in 10 years, Amanda found her bedroom door unlocked without Castro in the house.
Whoa.
Downstairs, the front door was open but wired with an alarm. Beyond it was a storm door that was padlocked shut, but Amanda was still able to squeeze her arm through the opening when she tried to open it.
Wow. I mean, yeah, she's probably still malnourished.
She did not attempt to break through the outer door because she thought Castro might be testing her. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
Now, Gina said she thought Amanda had been caught by Castro, and she talked Michelle into staying where they were and not going out there to help Amanda. Someone passing by the house saw Amanda waving, but they did not stop to help or intervene.
Oh, no.
Another neighbor, Angel Cordero, responded to the screaming, but left because he was unable to communicate with Amanda because he was a Spanish speaker who didn't know any English.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
And that's when neighbor Charles Ramsey showed up. He started to pull on the door, but he couldn't get it open any further than Amanda had been able to do. So he started kicking at the door, and eventually there was just enough space. And he said, "There you go. Finish kicking it out. You can get out."
What the fuck?
Once Amanda was out, she called for Jocelyn to crawl through the door, and the two of them found a neighbor with a phone and called 911.
Oh my God.
Police arrived and rescued Gina and Michelle as well. For the listeners that are paying attention, because these two are shocked that we have survivors, we had talked about doing a survivor case every so often, but agreed that I wouldn't warn them that no one was going to die.
Wow. Oh,
This
wow.
is our
Okay, no, it's finally
first.
setting in. He's not going to
Completely
get them.
Yeah.
They survived.
Yes, this is our first of a survivor type case.
Wow. Wow, the relief. I mean, not really, because they still endured an insane amount of abuse.
Yeah,
That
a lot. Yeah. I mean, 10 years in captivity. Fuck that.
absolutely horrible.
So Amanda said, quote, "I was terrified, and just because there's people on the street doesn't mean that he still wouldn't hurt me. I still don't know why he left that day with the door unlocked. I will never know," quote. Now responding,
'Cause he must have had to like forget.
or he was just so, after 10 years of life this way, he must have just been so comfortable with it that he, yeah, it was just casual. Who knows how many times he'd
I think that
actually
he
done it before.
scared them enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, responding police officers Michael Tracy, Barbara Johnson, and Anthony Espada entered Castro's home. They walked through an upstairs hallway with guns drawn, announcing themselves as the Cleveland PD. After peeking out from a slightly opened bedroom door, Michelle entered the hallway and leapt into the officer's arms, repeatedly saying, "You saved me." Soon afterwards, Gina entered the hallway from another room. Gina DeJesus stated it took her a while to come out of her room because she didn't believe the police were really there. She said, quote, "I thought maybe they were people in costumes because I was shocked," unquote.
Oh,
That's so bad that she's really that in that bad a shape to have to feel that way.
Yeah, the trauma
Yeah, I mean,
of it. Yeah.
all of his tests. I mean, I can see how it's totally plausible that she's like, these are his friends. He's testing me.
Right. You have no idea. I mean,
Yeah.
especially because she was 14 when she was taken. You know, like she doesn't know much of anything in that point of life. And it's not like she learned a lot in that last 9 years. I hate to say it. So she said that when she was telling first responders her name, they looked as if they had seen a ghost. Michelle and Gina walked out of that house, and all three women, plus Jocelyn, were taken to the Metro Health Medical Center. Amanda Berry and Gina DeJesus were released from the hospital the next day, and Michelle Knight was discharged 4 days later on May 10th. Michelle's grandmother later told reporters that Michelle would require facial reconstructive surgery due to the beating she had endured, and she had lost hearing in one of her ears.
Oh my God.
Holy hell.
Yeah, that fucking sucks. Castro was arrested in a McDonald's parking lot shortly after his victims were rescued. He was charged with 4 counts of kidnapping and 3 counts of rape on May 8th, which carried prison sentences of 10 years to life in Ohio. Castro recalled each of the 3 abductions in great detail during his interrogation and indicated that they were unplanned crimes of opportunity. Which,
Bullshit.
well, I mean, they kind of have to be. He might have wanted to abduct someone, but you wouldn't know who you were going to take until you're like, hey, I recognize that girl.
Exactly. Like, oh, that one's going to be easy. I
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah, I believe that too. Police found a suicide note in the house in which Castro discussed the abductions and wrote that his money and possessions should be given to the kidnapped women if he were ever caught. Castro made his first court appearance on May 9th, where bail was set at $2 million per kidnapping charge.
Oh,
At that
Wow.
point, like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
how
why-
many times can I say bail is stupid?
Right, and that just proves how stupid bail is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, prosecutors intended to seek the death penalty against Castro, which, good, he deserves it. On July 12th, a Cuyahoga County grand jury returned a true bill of indictment of a total of 977 counts.
oh, holy
Oh,
shit.
and I bet the journals helped with that too.
Exactly. He was charged with 512 counts of kidnapping,
Whoa.
446 counts of rape, 7 of gross sexual imposition, 6 of felonious assault, 3 of child endangerment, 2 of aggravated murder, and 1 of possession of criminal tools. Oh, the aggravated murder comes from the miscarriages.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, originally, they wanted to try to charge him with a count of kidnapping for every day that the women were missing.
I don't think that's usually how kidnapping works.
No, but I mean, it comes down to 512 counts, which I know isn't 10 years of kidnapping. But
Right.
yeah, but who knows how they decided to do it. But either way,
Yeah, I'm sure there's some definition.
right. So on July 17th, Castro pled not guilty.
What?
Of course.
Yeah, not guilty. He faced death by lethal injection if convicted on the charges.
Merciful death. That sucks.
Yeah, well, just wait. As the death penalty often does, Castro changed his mind and took a plea deal where he pled guilty on July 26 to 937 of the 977 charges against him, including charges of kidnapping, rape, including charges of kidnapping, rape, and aggravated murder, which called for the consecutive sentences of life in prison plus 1,000 years, all without parole.
God. Yes.
Under the plea deal, Castro forfeited his rights to appeal and could not profit in any way due to his crimes, and he was also fined $100,000, which is crazy.
Right. It's like, I don't think he has $100,000.
No, I don't think so either. The sentencing judge also heard from Michelle Knight and her family members, as well as Amanda Berry and Gina DeJesus. Michelle told Castro, quote, "You took 11 years of my life away. I spent 11 years in hell. Now your hell is just beginning," unquote.
Hell yeah, girl.
The Cleveland Courage Fund, a bank account set up to help the women in their transition to independent life, had collected approximately $1 million to help them.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Before Amanda's disappearance, her grandfather had promised to give her a classic Chevrolet Monte Carlo built in the year that she was born. He kept that car after her disappearance in case she was found alive, and he gave it to her when she was released, although it was in need of restoration, having not been used for all that time.
Mm-hmm.
Several automotive shops offered to perform that restoration for her for free.
That's great. That's incredible.
After her rescue, Michelle legally changed her name and began to get several tattoos as her way of coping with the healing process. She revealed that her son was adopted by foster parents while she was in captivity and that she wanted to see him, but she does not want to bring him into the ordeal, which she basically became her life. But she did plan to see him at some point after he became an adult and could make his own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
She planned to open a restaurant and dreamed of getting married, which she did in 2016, and hoped to adopt a child, as the years of abuse that she went through had made it unlikely for her to ever be able to give birth again.
Oh,
Yeah, it sucks.
so awful.
Amanda and Gina received honorary diplomas from John Marshall High School in 2015. Gina started volunteering for the Amber Alert Committee, offering comforts to families of abducted children.
Wow.
Yeah. In February of 2017, Amanda joined the staff of Fox affiliate WJW in Cleveland, where she hosts short recurring segments in which she reports missing person cases in order to help families reunite with missing family members.
Good for her.
Yeah, it's honestly like what a creative way to do it.
Yeah, that rocks.
In April of 2019, Amanda reunited with Charles Ramsey, the guy who helped tear open the door, 6 years since her rescue, and during an interview on that same channel. Now, I don't know if you've ever watched the video of this guy. He's a riot. The day when the news reporters were, the day that he rescued them, he's being interviewed by police, and he's like this black guy, and he's sitting there, he goes, "You know something's bad when this white girl runs into the arms of a black man yelling for help." He was so funny.
Oh my good God.
That's a riot.
It is a great news clip. All right. As part of the plea bargain, the house where Castro had lived and held the women captive was demolished on August 7th, 2013. A park and garden now sits in that spot, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
On the evening of September 3rd, 2013, Ariel Castro was found hanging from a bedsheet with his pants pulled around his ankle and without underwear in his detention cell at the Correctional Reception Center in Orient, Ohio, only 1 month into his sentence.
That's fucked.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's speculation here that he died of autoerotic asphyxiation gone wrong.
No, it sounds like he just fucking wanted to be nasty while he killed himself.
Or someone did it for him. Who knows?
I was going to say, that sounds like some kind of revenge plot there.
Who knows? But either way, fuck him, burn in hell.
Truly.
He was 53 at the time of his death, and he was later cremated. He was not on any kind of suicide watch at the time of his death, but had been subjected to routine checks every 30 minutes due to his notoriety, and the guards that were working that night were put on administrative leave because of his death.
Mm-hmm.
Gina DeJesus had to learn Spanish again, which she had forgotten how to speak while in captivity because Amanda and Michelle and Ariel only spoke English. So, yeah, she kind of forgot, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, use it or lose it. That's what they
guess
say.
So, yeah. So she also had to learn how to drive and get her driver's license.
Oh.
Amanda Berry, who lives with her sister Beth, goes to middle and high schools to talk to students, not to scare them, but to tell them ways to stay safer.
Mm-hmm.
She says that she finally got her first real boyfriend after all this and has an extremely close relationship with her daughter, who, at some point, she got to dance with her at her Sweet 16 birthday party.
Oh.
Good.
Amanda said that her focus was for her daughter to have a normal life and support everything that she wants to do. Michelle Knight now goes by the name of Lily Rose Lee, and she released 2 memoirs, Finding Me, which was a New York Times bestseller in 2014, and Life After Darkness in 2018. Through mutual friends on Facebook, Michelle eventually found love and married Miguel Rodriguez, a medical courier, on May 6, 2016, the 3rd anniversary of her freedom from Castro's house.
Wow.
Crazy, right? I think I would have picked a
Yeah.
different day, but maybe she wants to reclaim that day. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, good for her if that's what she wants.
She has since traveled the globe as a public speaker and launched her foundation, Lily's Ray of Hope, supporting women and girls who are victims of domestic abuse, human trafficking, and child abuse. And finally, in May of 2015, Amanda Berry partnered with Gina DeJesus, sharing their story in Hope, a memoir of survival in Cleveland, co-written by Mary Jordan and Kevin Sullivan. And that is our very first survivor story here on Unsung Murder Ballads.
Wow.
What a roller coaster of a case. Holy crap.
I know. I
For
wanted
real.
when we talked about not warning you, I was like, this is a good case for our first survivor case because there are 3 potential victims and I was being vague on purpose.
Yes. And you know what? I feel like was there like a show made about this? Because I feel like
I'm sure
I
there has been.
recognized it.
I'm sure there has been. This is a very famous case.
Yeah, and the name sounded vaguely familiar too. I was like, is this the first time I'm gonna actually know something about a case? But
Right?
yeah,
You
I'm so glad they were rescued.
I know you did well not revealing that you knew anything, so I got to give you credit.
Well, because at first I didn't trust myself. I was like, there's no way.
Yeah, but here we are. Yeah, our first survivor case, and it's
Yeah.
ironic that that's the first one you knew.
I know, right? Well, I'm glad they survived. I hope they're able to find peace and some semblance of healing. And
Yeah,
I hope that little girl. I mean, she's grown up now, but
she's going to
I
be
hope
close to 20 now, I would think.
Yeah, I hope it didn't ruin her life for
Yeah.
her to have started off that way. But
I mean, the good news is, yeah, they all survived. They seem to be healthier, and obviously for their privacy, I didn't want to dig too deep into where they are now. So,
for sure, they deserve all the privacy in the world.
yeah, I mean, that's a horrific thing to go through. And while it sucks that this guy isn't rotting behind bars and being beaten every day, at least he's no longer in the world. Fuck him.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's truly no punishment that would be enough.
Agreed. So, all right, but thank you everyone for joining us once again. I am Janice Dead,
I'm Jameson Dead.
And I'm Joyous Dead.
and we'll see you next week.
Bye.